Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters Podcast. It is Sunday, July 13th, 2025, and we are hiding out in our air-conditioned, somewhat secret bunker.
Because it's humid as hell.
Nasty here in the lovely God. Michigan, surrounded by huge lakes. As to be expected, 91 degrees and, a high humidity, but we are within the shadow of the great Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. And in just a few minutes, we're going to bring on the host of the show, the Paranormal Portal, Brent Thomas. But first, we got to take care of a few things. Michelle, take it away.
Don't forget, for our locals around this area in Southeast Michigan, on Friday, July 25th, at 5:30 until 8 p.m., Ray Szymanski is going to be doing a live presentation.
Yep.
Not swamp gas, the true story of the 1966 Michigan swamp gas flying saucers at the Bacon Memorial Library on 45 Vinewood Street in Wyandotte, Michigan.
Everything is better with bacon.
Everything is better with bacon.
Yeah.
You do have to reserve those, so make sure if you are interested, go to the Bacon Memorial Library website and reserve your spot.
And for next Sunday, so everybody knows that there will not be a show next Sunday. We're going to be traveling back from a family reunion in the bluegrass state of Kentucky, but we will have something for you guys that week at some point.
We're working on something. It's not going to happen on Sunday, but we've got a show that we are working on, and let's just say it's cryptid based.
Cryptid based, yes.
So
and, Michigan's famous for the Dog Man, so we're probably going to be talking a little bit about that.
But there's more than just Dog Man, and we'll get more to it when that show arrives, and that'll be after next weekend. And it's not just the family reunion that I am dragging my husband to. It is also our wedding anniversary. So he forgot about that.
Well, maybe.
No, he didn't forget about it. Guys, I got like the best anniversary gift early. I got to tell a story really quick.
Tell the story.
So, years and years ago when we first dated, and before 93. Back in 93, before that 23-year, void. There was a game that Wayne always had at his house, and it was Lemmings. So going back to like 91, 92.
It was the Commodore Amiga version.
Yeah.
Remember
so
the Amiga? All
I remembered were these little things like splatting, and it was all strategic. So we just happened to go to a local gaming store that, sells vintage games. And I'm walking by and I see a Super Nintendo game, and it's Lemmings. And so I'm like, no way. I said, but I don't have my Super Nintendo anymore. Then I see Super Mario World. I'm like, it takes me back to when I was like 13, 14, and all the hours that I would put in, mastering those levels.
Yeah.
So they have these new third-party like gaming systems. And the one that I have is Super Retron. Mm-hmm. It's like a third-party company that builds these video game systems that you can play the vintage games. So let's just say that my anniversary gift was one of those gaming systems with my Super Mario World and my lemmings, and I'm already up to level 17 on lemmings. I had forgotten how to play that thing. Those things were dying on some of the levels. I hate level 14. 14, no.
Yeah.
So, but
well,
yeah,
now that you told your story, how about you tell the audience if they have a story they would like to tell us? What do they do?
You need to email us at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. So if you have any stories, including ones about games called Lemmings.
Yeah. All right. So also, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so with PayPal, Super Chats, buy us a coffee, check out our merchandise store, or join the Patreon. All of those links can be found below in the show description. If you decide to become a YouTube member or a Patreon member, you will get a shout out during the intro and be listed in the credits at the end of the show as a thank you for your support. Right, Michelle?
Bum, bum, bum. Yes.
What's next?
Did you smash the like button, Wayne?
Of course I smashed the like button.
I got too busy looking over at the live chat.
I know we got a lot in chat. We got to say hi to people.
You know, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share us out.
And leave a comment afterwards when this opens up for everybody.
We love discussions afterwards. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to give a shout out to the folks that are in chat right now.
Yeah, go for it.
We're going to say hello to T-Bone. T-Bone, I see you in there. Chris. Hello, Chris, and Miss Diane is with us tonight. We've got Paramarv with us tonight. Let's see, scrolling. We've got Bogart. Bogart M has joined us. Paranormal Portal. Let's see, Joe. Joe. Oh, hi, Brent.
Speaking of that, there he is in the ticker there, so you guys can go and check out his channel.
We've got Joe Stewart with us. Let's see. Straw Dog has joined us.
Of course. What about Metalhead?
Metalhead
is
with us tonight. Nathan from the Quantum Show.
He's lurking because I think
he's lurking. That's why I nicknamed him Nathan the Lurker.
That's right.
Because he's at work. And Blue Crossroads is with us tonight.
All right.
I know we missed not doing a show last Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, this summer is getting away from us, guys.
It's kicking our butt a little bit, and we have an awful lot to do. So,
and with Wayne getting ready to start a
new school,
new job.
Yeah, just a lot going on, but we're all right, and a lot of travel. So, but remember, you can also find this show as an audio podcast pretty much everywhere. You can look us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, among others. I think Spreaker's in there as well. Just Google it. All you got to do is Google the show, look for us, and if you do find us and you like listening to the audio version, hey, leave us a review. Preferably like a 5-star one, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, are we ready to bring on the guest, the man of the hour? You guys ready for this? I mean, he has a show called The Paranormal Portal. So we got some things to talk about. So let's go ahead and bring him on. It is Brent Thomas. Brent.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. Great to have you on board. And man, what's going on? First of all, I already told you I was going to hit you with a question as soon as I popped you on here, because Ross Cathcart, the investigative UAP journalist, whatever, says that he knows categorically that the Tic Tac UFO was indeed Lockheed Martin, but he can't reveal how he knows that. What are your thoughts on this? Because Fravor came out and said, that's not what it is. So what do you think?
I think this is the waters are getting muddied for some purpose, and I don't know. You know, I mean, it's I often cringe or become concerned when somebody can swear they got the whole story but can't tell you where they got the whole story. It's
yes.
Like, well, how do you quantify that, or how because you said so, or somebody convinced you that that's the story. But in any case, I've seen blurbs online like, wonder who got to him, because suddenly his his whole tone on this stuff is changing, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? So it really seems like a lot of obfuscation. I'm not sure what to make of it, but honestly, one of the aspects of the Tic Tac craft that was discussed in the original report was how it made this craft went to their rendezvous point, which was classified prior to them getting there. How did it know? Well, I mean, if it is an advanced species with advanced technologies, I'm sure it's probably really hard to keep a secret, but maybe that does lend a little credence to it being somehow something of ours, because it already knew a flight plan that wasn't shared beyond the pilots that were doing it and the control. So that is curious, but there's any number of reasons how they could have known, because, if they're that far ahead of us, they probably know everything we're up to, and can get through our systems pretty quickly and easily. It's, I don't know. Again, anytime you hear somebody dealing in absolutes like that, it's like, that to me is incredibly suspect. And I just don't know what to trust. And it's interesting that some are saying, yeah, some are saying no. Well, then it's like, well, there you go. The waters just got really dirty and nobody knows what the hell's going on. And that's concerning to me, because I would hope that somehow we're moving towards some state of disclosure, at some point. And it doesn't seem, well, at least it seems that there is still a concerted effort to keep that from happening.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing that always bothered me, has bothered me with his statement about this, is that he makes no account for anything before the 2000, was it 7 or 4? But
yeah, 2007 and 14, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
These things have been reported as long cylindrical cigar shapes. Richard Dolan did a great video on this. And so these things were reported before Lockheed Martin, and, this goes back. So I'm curious, what if we played around with like the time traveler hypothesis, is how they know like these things, and it's us. It could be us, but way in the future coming back to play, you know what I mean? Or to investigate or try to change a timeline or something. I don't know. You're the paranormal portal. We can talk about what portals are and all that, but are we going there with that?
It could be anything and everything. And that's the thing with any of this stuff. It's how can we know? We're dealing with something that we can't actively study, that shows up when it wants to, how it wants to, where it wants to. So it's not like it ever lends itself to any kind of rigorous study to be able to really get some determinations. The only efforts that we can make, I think, to understand what these things are is to find wrecked ones, which I think has been done. And I think that craft have been recovered and studied, and it could be part of the template to our existing lurch forward in technological advances. I think that as this stuff is being worked out, they're finding applications, and it's showing up in everything from consumer goods. I think first and foremost, it shows up in military applications, obviously. Sure. But yeah, I don't know what we're dealing with, whether it's something from a multiversal aspect of the universe, or dimensional, or time, or extraterrestrial. I mean, it could be any and all of the above. It's a grab bag, and anybody, again, that tells you they know exactly what's going on and can tell you from A to Z what this all is, I think is absolutely ridiculous, personally.
Well, what goes through my mind when you just brought up like the crashed craft and things like that, humans are very naturally adaptable, and we like to imitate and try to use things for ourselves as a tool, kind of a thing, right? I mean, it's just kind of in our nature.
Sure.
If you combine that, they have recovered crashed craft, and then you get some scientists somewhere, not only have they looked and studied this material, but not only that, then you end up with people seeing them who are scientists and, observe these things happening. They instantly want to figure out how to replicate and control it themselves and do it themselves.
Right.
And if they're within the government, you can bet that they're going to have unlimited resources to try to create these things. So from that angle, I can see that.
Sure.
Your thoughts on that?
I think absolutely. And it's kind of got to be incredibly daunting. Let's say that, that it is true that, and I believe it is, that craft have been recovered. But could you imagine a caveman taking apart a personal computer and trying to understand it? Because that's got to be a close parallel to what they'd be dealing with, like
absolutely.
Give a caveman a calculator and say, okay, can you make this? Well, no. Probably can't even understand the materials that were used, can't test it, can't even quantify the mechanics that are involved in this, and the more esoteric ideas of energy and stuff that we don't understand. Hell, we don't even know what ghosts are, but they're still popping up and haunting people. So I think that maybe things like fiber optics make sense. That, well, there was claims of this, like weird fiber optic wires that were found in the Roswell crash, and lo and behold, we have fiber optic communications. And not that people aren't incredibly adaptable and intelligent and can develop things on our own, but I think it does kind of steer our energies towards something, like it kind of gives us an idea that, well, maybe we should look down this avenue and see how we can apply this. And so I don't think that we probably, if indeed there are recovered craft, we probably don't understand a whole lot about it, but we at least understand maybe some theoretical practices that were put to work to build it. And maybe it steers our science in a manner of speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think that, with your analogy of the caveman and, taking apart a computer, you could just go back, say 30 years, 40 years with an iPhone right now.
Yeah.
Right. And people would lose their minds. I mean, it'd be like, well, it wouldn't work because there's no cell towers, but still the ability, and I go into the store sometimes, and Michelle and I will go shopping, and I'll see people talking into the air. They got their AirPods in, right? And they're talking to somebody on the phone, but they just look like they're walking around schizophrenic, talking to nobody. And it's like, imagine that. These people would be burned for witchcraft not too long ago.
Absolutely.
So the jumps that we've made has been amazing.
Well, I mean, even with that analogy, imagine bringing an iPhone back 50 years ago and saying, hey, in 50 years, we'll have this. They couldn't possibly understand how that could be in 50 years, because it's like the technology is growing at a geometric rate. It's like, we can develop this. Now we can use this to help us develop the next phase and the next phase. And it just springboards so quickly, how fast technology is moving. So it's an exciting time in a lot of ways. And I think I personally, build the Enterprise. I'm jumping on board. I want to see all that stuff. I'm ready.
Yeah. And now that we have AI and stuff, we're going to see probably way incredible exponential growth when it comes to technology and things like that. So quantum computing and getting into all that. But before we jump into anything else, I need to know. Well, we need to know. Everybody needs to know. Okay. How did you end up in this space, this paranormal portal? What did you have some kind of personal experiences? Did you see some UFOs or personal research? What brought you to this crazy, what do I want to say? Community. There we go.
Well, I apologize for anybody that's heard me interviewed before, because I feel like I'm really redundant when I say this, but it's absolutely the truth. I've always been into this stuff. Okay. I've even as a young kid, and I wasn't one of those kids that grew up with all kinds of strange experiences and stuff. I had my first experience was about 14, I think, that I remember. I don't remember any prior to that, but my childhood wasn't a haunted house or seeing strange lights in the sky or, anything like that. It was just suddenly I was in the woods of southeastern Minnesota, and I got growled at something that was about the size of a truck. I don't know what it was, but it was huge. I didn't see it, but I was afraid for my life, because whatever it was right behind me, and it was going to kill me and my friend. I mean, it was just the most terrifying moment of my life to this day. And I didn't know what to do with that because I knew that Bigfoot was a thing, but it was in the Pacific Northwest. That's what Leonard Nimoy told me on In Search of, it was over there. Well, that's not in Minnesota. So I didn't know. I mean, but whatever it was changed the woods for me. Cause that was my playground as a kid, these woods. But I don't know, my friend and I were hiking and we must've got too close somehow. And suddenly there was this rumbling growl that was right behind me. And it was like, and it shook my body. There was a resonance in my body from this growl. It was so big and so powerful. And this is growing up in an area where the biggest thing we had was white-tailed deer,
Okay.
and whatever this was way bigger than that. And it was pissed. And I was 14 years old. Up to this point, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of a man, you kind of feel like you got this all sorted out. You're a teenager and growing into your adultness. And then this happened. And man, I was instantly a fetus. I was so afraid. I was so sure whatever was making that sound was going to kill me. And a lot of people talk about having encounters with something like that and how they couldn't move. And it's not that I couldn't move. It's that I didn't dare move. I didn't want to do anything to make that thing start chewing on my head. I mean, it was just, It was right behind us. And we just stood there and frozen as we were hiking on this hill. And I just said to my friend, what the hell is that? And he said, I don't know, but we got to get the hell out of here. And it's funny because people say, if you ever get in a cryptid experience, don't run, you'll trigger that prey response. Well, 14-year-old me was way out of fight mode with whatever the hell that was. So all that was left was flight. And that's what we did. We ran. And whatever it was didn't chase us. But I like I said, I grew up in those woods. And suddenly they were transformed to me. It was like, I don't know what's up there. I don't know what that is. And it was right at, our house was right at the foot of this, right on the Mississippi River Valley in Minnesota. And I couldn't go in the woods for a long time after that. But as time goes on, you kind of just, I don't know, you move on. There was no other events, no other activity that I ever experienced. And so it just kind of got shuffled to the back of my mind. I'm just grateful I wasn't alone, because if you go through an experience like that and time goes by, you just start wondering, did that really happen? But I mean, I know it did because my friend was there with me. And so it did happen. And it was much, much later that I started learning about Bigfoot and learning about signs attributed to them, things that I'd seen dozens of times through my, ramblings through those woods, but didn't really know that it was anything. It was just sticks and things moved and displaced in weird ways, but it's the forest. It's a random thing. But once you know what you're looking for, it's like, oh my God, that might have been Bigfoot. And it brought it all full circle. And it's funny because I carried that sound with me. I do have to apologize because StreamYard is lagging for me. So if you hear breaks,
no, you're fine for us.
Okay, good. Because I get lag spikes coming from you guys, and I'm sure it's my connection somehow, but I do apologize. So if I break off and suddenly drift into silence, it's because of the latency. But I was in those woods and started finding out as an adult that you look for tree breaks, you look for structures, you look for things. And then I started seeing those up there and I was like, oh my God, but I carried it for years. And it wasn't until the first Jurassic Park movie came out. And it was the part where those kids are in that car and they're all stopped on that track and the adults are in the car in front of them. And those kids are alone and that T-Rex comes out. And when it comes down right to the eye level of those kids and does that deep rumbling growl, it brought it all back. It all came back from being 14-year-old me. And it was like, it just came back in a rush. And it was like, oh my God, I remember something like that. And it wasn't the exact sound, but it was just that size and power of that sound was what brought it all back. And then I started to learn about it. I'm like, oh my God, that could have been Bigfoot. I might have had a close encounter with a Bigfoot. Again, I didn't look, I didn't see, because at the time it was just terror. It was just sheer terror. So that was my kind of my baptism by fire into all of this weirdness. Now, since then, as an adult, I lived in plenty of haunted areas and have had lots of spiritual activity. I've seen a UFO with my own eyes, something I'd looked for all of my life and never saw anything until one day, about 12 years ago, I saw it. And it was right there hovering above a tree and just sitting there in the sky, a flying saucer. And it was like, oh my God.
The classic saucer shape.
Well, do you want to hear the whole story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the story was, I used to work, as I mentioned, I lived in Minnesota at this time, but I was working remotely for a company doing marketing and stuff for a preparedness company, which was located where I live now, up in the north of Idaho. And I've been up here a couple of times with the owner and his family, who had moved up here as well. And it came time for some contracts to be negotiated in I think it was 2013 or 14. I think it was 13. And he said, why don't you, since you're in the marketing and stuff, we're going to be doing marketing contracts with all of these entities. And so why don't you come up and you can meet with us with them and we can get this all figured out. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I flew up. He flew me up. And when I got here, he had bought a house up in the mountains and had done all this incredible work to it. It was a beautiful off-grid location, beautiful house, full of every amenity, just off the grid. And so he said, since you're here, this house is ready. We're not living in it yet, but it's all ready to go. So why don't you just stay up in the house? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll stay up in this beautiful mountain house. I can handle that. So he brought me up to the house and kind of showed me what to do, because it's all off grid and there's lots of to-dos and to-don'ts and stuff. So kind of walked me around. And then he said, by the way, I've got these night vision binoculars. You should check those out sometime. I'm like, oh, cool. Generation 1 night vision binoculars. They were 4 or 5 power, really cool. So I was like, this will be kind of fun at nights when I'm up here alone. I can go look at the stars, because I'd always heard that in our galaxy, there's a lot of red stars that we can't see with our naked eye. But I've always been told, look at the night sky. There's just going to be millions of more stars if you can see it through night vision. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So went through the first day's meetings, got done. And I'd been looking at the night sky my whole life, looking for UFOs, because I really believe they were out there. I just never saw anything. And I was like, oh, I wonder why I never see anything. And like I said, I grew up in rural Minnesota, so I didn't have any light pollution and stuff where I lived. Just
right. Mm-hmm.
See the whole, Milky Way and everything, but I didn't see anything. But I got up to the cabin, and I was kind of got everything all set. And I was like, I'm going to go check out those night vision goggles and check out the stars, because it's up in the mountains of North Idaho. It's just beautiful. And so the way the house is situated, it was it was in a valley, and there was basically just a logging road to get to this house. It was barely a road, but it's on one side of the valley, and the bottom is a creek, and on the other side is another mountainous valley with no houses on it and stuff. And it's all just cabins back in there. There wasn't like houses, so it was it was just really unoccupied. It was late spring, and I'm up there, and I got out the night vision binoculars and went and stood out in the parking area in front of the house in the dead of night, looking up at the stars. And no kidding, it was amazing. Honestly, if that alone was my experience, just seeing the night sky with night vision, it was amazing. I couldn't recognize constellations. It was incredible. There's millions of more stars in the sky.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. So I'm looking up at the sky, looking around. I'm like, wow, this is the first time I've ever really played with night vision. So I was like a kid with a new toy, and I'm like, oh, looking at everything. I look at the other mountainside, and I can see all the trees and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I look down the driveway, which is a black wall, with my naked eye, and sure enough, with the night vision, I can see all the way down, and it was really pretty amazing. So I'm looking around, and I look down the driveway, and I'm like, I'm gonna look at the stars again. So I pan up, and with the binoculars like this, I pan up over the top of this huge row of pine trees lining his driveway, and right above this pine tree is, no kidding, floating a flying saucer. And it's about 30 feet or so above this pine tree, this huge majestic pine tree. And it's not a typical flying saucer in that it doesn't have the top and bottom that come together to form this flat rim. There was like a gap between the upper and the lower, and in the middle were these panels. And these panels were flashing in a chasing light pattern. And it was like, oh my God. And I'm seeing this in my vision. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. I can see one. I've finally seen it. It's real. Now I'm a knower. Now I move to knower, not believer. I know they're real because I saw it. It was right there. It's sitting there.
Was it visible to the naked eye, or just through the...
Hold on.
Okay. I'm excited. I got to hear this.
Because that's the magic. So I'm looking. I'm like, oh my God, I got to see this with my own eyes. I lower the binoculars. My eyes still fixed on that same spot. There's nothing there, just stars. And I can see the silhouette of the tree line and stuff, but there's nothing in that sky. Like, oh my God, it took off. It just left that quick. That is amazing. Raise the binoculars. It's still there.
Oh, wow.
Lower the binoculars. It's not there. I can't see it. It's not visible. raise, lower. I'm doing this. And meanwhile, my mind is exploding like, oh my God, they can hide. They could be in your yard and you wouldn't even know it. They can hide. They can hide themselves from the light spectrum frequencies that our eyes can see. And I was just, boom, I was exploding. Just all the possibilities were rolling through my head like a freight train. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is amazing. And then I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, they're up there floating around. I'm down here looking at them. I'm like the only thing going on in this whole valley. There's nobody for miles. Chances are they're floating up there looking at me.
Watching you.
So I'm like, I don't think I need any probing tonight. So,
right.
So I was like, okay, I'm going inside. I shut everything off, went inside, locked the doors, and paced for hours. I was like, oh my God. Peeking out the blinds, just seeing what I could see. Honest to God, true to life. Everything I put it on everything I love. That is an absolutely true story. And it was my baptism into the UFO world.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. When you see one, and like what Michelle and I experienced with the black triangle that everybody wants to tell me is the TR3B and all this stuff.
Sure.
I'm just like the Tic Tac. I cannot, and we can't explain the feeling of seeing this thing defy especially as a science teacher.
Yeah.
Defy every aspect of physics. And as somebody who follows aviation and my whole life, I mean, my dad was an airline pilot. So I grew up around planes constantly, air shows, military, you name it.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's this thing that is causing this reaction, like, first of all, I thought we were dead. I thought it was a plane that was crashing right on the road in front of us. I thought it, 3 landing lights coming right at us. And no, those were the lights in the corners.
Oh, wow.
In the 3 corners of this craft. It was 300 feet on a side sitting there. Well, it was creeping along.
Uh-huh.
And it rotated. And as we got closer, I got hit as the driver. I think it was because I was the driver. Michelle had the window down and she's sticking her head out. And neither one of us are thinking about grabbing our phone. I'm thinking there's nowhere I can go to escape all that aviation fuel that's going to come down. It's just keep going and try to get to the expressway. Well, it was hovering over the expressway, the intersection of an expressway and the road we were on. And as we get closer and I see this thing and its body, I want to say the body of this craft was wavering like a heat mirage. Michelle sticks her head out. She's looking at it and she can see what looks like a circuit board. She described it as the body of it looked like a circuit board. And this was in March of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear this, here I go. I hate saying this, and sorry everybody if you've heard this for the 1,000th time, right? But I get this feeling of absolute terror, and in my head, all I can hear is, you don't belong here, get away, you don't belong here. Now, was it a human voice? Was it my voice? I can't tell you. All I know is that it was some type of communication along with the emotion of, you better get out of here or things are going to get really bad for you.
Wow.
And so I gunned it. I mean, I was driving a 4-door Jeep Wrangler at the time. Those things don't go very fast. So, the thing's rattling as I'm trying to hit 90 miles an hour going down the expressway and our teeth are getting rattled. And then it's moving parallel to us. And then we lose sight of it for a second. And where we should be able to see it, it's gone. Just gone. And I'm like, that's not our stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that muddying the waters thing, it's like, okay, that was almost 10 years ago, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, why aren't we using this? Why are we rolling out another B-21 bomber, the Spirit, the B-21 Spirit?
Sure.
Why are we doing the F-47 that launches remote drones to go, drops drones out of it and fights and stuff? And so it just, as we started digging, we found out that these reports and things like this going on, years and years and years and years and years back that they're flying triangles and these elongated things. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I can believe some of this stuff where we're getting some of our technology probably comes from crashed ones or downed UFOs. But I just tell people, like, you'll know when you know. I mean, it's like the old joke, if you know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you'll know when you really experience something like that. And it was something, and it took us a few years of talking about it. And then we started the podcast, and then we just kind of went to doing the live show and then releasing a live show as the audio podcast. But we had Matt Lohmeyer from Space Force on. He taught us all about Space Force, where it came from, some of their capabilities and things. He was one of our big shows, a lieutenant colonel in Space Force.
Sure.
And it just seemed like all these experiences. And then we started having people come on that were having the communications. Yeah. And it was just mind blowing. Because for me as a science teacher, I grew up, I'm a Gen Xer and stuff. We had Star Wars and all this stuff. And, I was interested in sci-fi, but I knew what sci-fi was, it's like everybody was interested and in search of, because we had three TV channels, to watch and stuff, so, but I wasn't like a fan, I wasn't like going, UFOs and aliens are real. Of course, whatever. No, I was very logically, mindset with exploring that stuff, because I had been around all the mechanical things that we have built, all the different airplanes I've flown in and seen and stuff. And no, there was nothing like this, a 300-foot long triangle just sitting there silent, not a sound.
Right.
And one of the weirdest things, and I don't know if you heard these same kind of descriptions with any of your stories or people you've talked to, but one of the things that I noticed is that one of the observations I made was that the three lights that were in the corners of the triangle, the thing was low. It had to be 125, 150 feet, something like that above the ground. It was 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
The lights were hitting my eye a mile away, like from the triangle. Like I could see them. But when I got up close and we were directly underneath the thing, when I looked around, those light beams were not striking the ground. You would expect to see like huge, bright, like spotlight type things on the ground.
Yep.
Not with this thing. It was somehow controlling how far that light or what was being released. Like the photons were hitting my eye. They were hitting Michelle's eye. We could see these incredibly bright three lights, but not on the ground. And they should have been on the ground too.
Right.
They weren't. So I don't know if you've ever heard any stories like that.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, outside of my own experience, of course, it was giving off light. I could see it flashing in the night vision binoculars, but not outside of that. Now, what I think is fun, I've had somebody trying to debunk this stuff. It's like, oh, well, if they're aliens from another planet, why are they all decorated with all these lights and stuff like that? And I'm like, the thing is we're observing technology that's hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of years more advanced to us. And what we observe as these decorative lights are probably something to do with their technology. I mean, they're utilizing light waves in ways that we just can't understand. It's not for like a Christmas tree, a Christmas pageant kind of decoration. It's because this is what they're doing, and they're utilizing light, or what we perceive as light could be some other type of energies that one of the side effects is releasing photons, but it's not light in the traditional sense. Like they don't need it to see, I'm pretty sure, but we're seeing it as a result of their technology to whatever they are doing. And I think that's fascinating. It's kind of like ghosts. People say, well, we know ghosts are EMF. Well, no, we don't. What we know, we don't know what ghosts are, because if that's the case, everybody should be able to take a K2 meter up to their forehead and light it up if it's formerly living people. What we do know, or what we can discern from that, is that whatever energy ghosts are seems to interfere with the electromagnetic spectrum. So I don't think it's EMF in and of itself, but that's the symptom of their presence, is these EMF fluctuations and whatever it is. And I don't understand that. I've tried to look into it myself, but I'm an idiot. So, but it does seem to me that's the breadcrumb. Look, you're seeing something that's interacting with it. That should tell us maybe a little more about what it is we're experiencing and seeing. And perhaps it's the same thing with the UFOs, that we're perceiving this as just decorative lights, but these are probably, sensors and functions and scans that we just can't understand.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to do with you while I got you here, let me find this. Okay. So I'm going to share something with everybody in the audience, and I think it's okay that I do this, but are you familiar with Micah Hanks and the debrief?
Well, I'm familiar with the name Micah Hanks, not so much what he does, though.
Okay. So he does a lot of paranormal and UFO things. And one of the people that listens to his show was Christopher Mellon.
Okay.
And we were on his show talking about our experience, and Christopher Mellon heard the episode. And so using Micah Hanks as a delivery system, sent us 2 drawings made by a very high ranking military member.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they sent to us.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
This was drawn by a very high military ranking military member in the Navy.
Is that what you saw?
Yep, except for in the middle.
Okay.
But this was it. I mean, he was looking out of the top of his sunroof, and this is what he saw.
Wow.
And this got sent to us, and Christopher Mellon wanted to know, is this what you guys saw? And it was like, absolutely, except for that middle. It didn't have a light in the middle. Mm-hmm. And the body was, like I said, it looked like a heat mirage. Michelle, because I was driving, but Michelle saw the lights in the back. It's almost the exact same thing.
Wow.
Except for that right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I have the former deputy director of national security, I think he was, or Secretary of State, reaching out and saying, can you guys speak to this? Yeah. There you go. It's, I don't know. There's no way that we are alone. And
no.
I think, well, we'll talk about disclosure in a minute. So,
okay, sure.
Let's go ahead and I want to go back to the whole paranormal portal. Why did you choose portal? Do you think that portals are a thing that's happening? Is it being used like wormholes, like with UFOs, with cryptids? Like they say UFOs are related to Bigfoot and et cetera, their ability to disappear and use, well, I don't know if they're using technology. There's something that they're able to use to just disappear. So your thoughts on that and why you came up with the whole portal idea?
It's really funny. I was really a late bloomer in life. Like I've done many different jobs and careers throughout my life, computers, sales, factories, construction, hanging garage doors. I mean, just literally almost everything I could think of, I've done. And I enjoyed those jobs for what they were. And they all brought me something in trade, but I've always been interested in this. And so I was really one of those guys that grew up, and I had friends from a young age that I know exactly what I want to do. And sure enough, they lived their whole lives geared towards that and ending up achieving it. And I was always like, what the hell am I supposed to do? What is it that I'm supposed to do? I was really kind of lost in all this. And it wasn't until I was working that same job where I was telling you about seeing the UFO, But
Yeah.
I met a gentleman by the name of Chris Gio, and he had founded Truth Frequency Radio. And that was where I started my show. But it was like he and I were just talking about a station and stuff. And suddenly the idea hit me like a brick. It's like it was fully formed somewhere and just waiting for me to stumble on it. But I said, I want to do a show. And it just kind of came out of my mouth. I'm
Just
like,
yeah.
What the hell did I just say? And as soon as that cleared my lips, it's going to be called Paranormal, and I want Paranormal Portal, and I want to do this, this, and this, and this. He's like, okay, well, let's do it. And so he made me a slot on his station, and I started the Paranormal Portal. But I never consciously chose the name. It's like it was out there waiting for me, and it's really kind of bizarre. But it literally, I mean, I spent hours and weeks and months listening to like Sasquatch Chronicles and Dark Waters and Expanded Perspectives and so many other shows that I used to listen to because they were all covering this stuff, which I was fascinated with and absolutely interested in. But then it was like I knew that I wanted to kind of model what I was going to do after those shows, these amazing shows, and so I did. But I never actually picked the name Paranormal Portal. It's almost like it picked me, and I don't know how else to describe it. It sounds kind of wacky and out there, but it's honest to God the truth. It just came to me, and so that's where the name came from.
Okay, was this after your UFO experience?
Actually, yes, it was. Yep, it was. I've done the Paranormal Portal. It started on April of 2016. Was my first show. So yeah, I mean, it was literally. I think the UFO incident was probably 4 or 5 years prior to that. So
that's very similar to what happened with Michelle and I. It's it took us though. 2021 was our first podcast that we put out, and it was episode 0, and it was just our story. We decided to put it out there. And if it was bad, if it got I mean, it sounds horrible. It's absolutely garbage because it had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it's still out there, but it was like, okay, episode 0. If it's that bad, if we get like thumbs down and crap on it, we'll just delete it, and it never existed. So episode 0, done.
Yep.
But we started getting immediately getting emails and contacted. And
cool.
But one thing we did start was about 3 days after our experience, we started our Facebook group, and it was just a simple recap of our story, what we saw, this triangle on Ford Road in 275 in Canton, Michigan at 2:30 in the morning. Has anybody else ever seen anything? And or seen anything in that area? And there it was. I mean, we're up to almost 8,000 people in our group from all around the world. It just blew our minds. Like, oh my God, this stuff, other people are seeing this. Oh, but this one's a ghost story. This one's telling us about this type of UFO. Did you know in 1966, Michigan had a crazy UFO experience that drove people crazy and all this? Like, hell no, I didn't know. I've lived here all my life. I never learned any of this stuff. Swamp gas. Right. What are you talking? And then that just continued to blow up. And then we finally decided to do the YouTube thing. But yeah, it took us a little while, but we both felt very compelled that we needed to get people's stories to help other people that are dealing with this. Cause we had some interviews with some people, especially about the triangles, where they were extremely distraught in the things that happened with them and stuff. And people that are, know our show, it's our Guy Merritt episodes that we did. And he's from the Flint, Michigan area. And there was the 1994 triangle epidemic. At the same time was the normal type of UFO saucers being seen on the west side of Michigan, along Lake Michigan, which did the whole what was it, the Unsolved Mysteries season 1 episode 4 called Something in the Sky with Jack Bouchon, who was the radar operator in Muskegon, Michigan tracking these things, and the police and the sheriffs were chasing them down. And they were asking Jack for help in getting vectored to the right spots to see these things. And absolutely. And they described them as huge flying saucers, and over 1,000 calls coming into the police. These things are flying around in my backyard. What's going on here? So that was going on the west side of the state, but on the east side of the state around the same time, March of 94, were the triangles showing up. Kids seeing them and reporting them and things like that. And we started discovering all this stuff, but the goal has always been to give people a place to come and tell their story and at least listen to real people tell their stories or send them and we read them, to give them some kind of idea that, look, not only are we not alone, you're not alone in what has happened to you or what you witnessed. And so that was always a big thing, but that was more of a compulsion. Like, this was something we were supposed to do when we did it. No. And so, and just real quick, Sir Brian Bowden jumps on with a super chat. A great big hello to Michelle, Wayne, and Brent. Party on. Well, thank you, Brian. You are awesome as always, sir. Thanks for stopping by and the awesome super chat. We really appreciate you. And by the way, everybody that's watching right now, if you go and you look in our chat, you're going to see that there is a poll going on. Do you believe Ross Cawthart's claim that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin? Right now, we got 25 votes. 28% of you say yes, while 72% of you say no. And I can't vote, but if I could, it would definitely be a no. So, but yeah, maybe. I'll say maybe. But yeah. Okay.
Now, can I address the portal question that you had there?
Absolutely.
Okay, so with portals, I think that we probably do have, multiversal experiences going on around us. I mean, they're just maybe a breath away, or just a little out of phase from us. I think there's a big thing to do with frequency and vibration and stuff, and I think that anybody's reality is determined by what frequency they're operating in. And I realize that's a really esoteric term, but there is atomic frequencies to things, and there's a commonality in our experience that you're experiencing things that are resonating within the parameters where you can pick it up. Now, I do think, and I know I've covered tons of stories through the years, and I don't claim to be an expert on portals. I mean, again, the name came to me, but I do get asked this question a lot. Like, I know something that people might want to know, but I think that perhaps our realities do overlap from time to time. And perhaps by virtue of that, it creates openings, where we get things like pterodactyl sightings and weirdness that we can't possibly understand or doesn't fit into our normal frame of reference. And I think that they're momentary, or at least brief, and then sometimes they just pop back to where they go when their frequency is uninterrupted by ours, or whatever that overlap was kind of smooths out and everything goes back to its normal place. But I think that there is a commonality in all of the phenomena between hauntings, UFOs, a strange phenomena with people finding themselves on a path that they know very well and they've walked hundreds of times before, and suddenly it's absolutely different, and they find themselves in really unfamiliar places. And a lot of times people stop and go, what the hell's going on? And they start taking steps backwards, like, wait. And then they find themselves where they should be. So they seem to have encountered some overlap or some gateway inadvertently. And I think, I don't know, with Bigfoot, the big thing with me is I don't know. It's a creature, a being. I don't want to say creature because I don't want to, understate the possible significance of these beings, but I think that they are wise and they are in tune, but they live in perfect balance with their natural world. So is it possible then, if these overlaps are happening, that they are familiar with them. They can tell when they're coming, and they can utilize them kind of like we utilize a subway. It's like, well, you go over to the 5th Street station and then get on that, and you'll go over to, maybe they understand this stuff. Like this is part of their awareness. They can see these gateways as they open and close, because it does. I don't expect that Bigfoot's going to like fix a transmission on somebody's car suddenly, like they're so advanced, but right. they do seem acutely aware of the natural world around them, and possibly that awareness includes fluctuations, and maybe they understand that and utilize it. I mean, there's plenty of people that have walked into, like, the story of the retired school teachers from England that went to the Versailles, France, and saw the old, court in session with Marie Antoinette and stuff in the courtyard there. It wasn't like the trial, but they saw the whole royal assembly there suddenly, and then suddenly they were gone. But they experienced that as real as, I'm experiencing in the room around me.
Right.
So I think there is something to that. And I think that, I don't think that ghosts and extraterrestrial beings or extra dimensional beings or cryptids are all the same thing, but it seems as though we're seeing an overlap in the mechanics that are being presented, where we see these strange things, whether they're time dilations, space dilations, or whatever. So I think that maybe the universe respirates in a sense, and that's what we're seeing when these gateways happen, is an expansion and eventual contraction, kind of a biorhythm of sorts. And this is symptomatic of that. And we see these things, these Bigfoot. Well, I've talked to many witnesses. I watched it walking through a field, and suddenly it just melted away and was gone. Well, is that possibly a gateway or something like that? So I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, or if I'm confusing the subject even more, but that's my take on it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because I have a very good friend, and I'm not going to drop their name on here, but they were driving through Gettysburg, and this person, I believe 150%.
Mm-hmm.
They're driving through the area, and materializing right next to them in the passenger seat of the car is a Union soldier. And he can see through them.
Yeah.
And he looks over at the driver, and he just goes back to looking forward and sitting there, and then disappears, which makes me think of these energy, like ley lines in these areas that have absorbed a lot of energy. And, to like your paranormal portal, that sometimes these areas, I mean, we got lightning striking the ground. We have crystals within the ground. We have quartz crystals that could be recording things. We use quartz crystals for time and,
electronics,
SD drives and computer components and things. And, there's probably so much about the actual earth and how it works, and the energy and the frequencies and the resonance of it. I think older, the ancient time people had a better understanding of how these things worked. I mean, look at the pyramids and things like that. But I think you're onto it when it comes to, because I've heard these stories too. And yeah, it's almost like there's a interaction that is live time, but also like a skip in history, like some type of time slip or something that'll happen. Or maybe the person driving is thinking about Confederate and Union soldiers because they're going through Gettysburg. It's a very charged area, and just so happens at that point that they could manifest what they were thinking about appearing in their car, because that area is energetic.
Sure.
So yeah.
An interesting phenomenon that continues to come up is sometimes it appears that in hauntings, in cases of hauntings, that we might be the ghosts to them as much as they are to us. And a case in point, I was talking with Mike Ricksecker when I spoke to him on my show, and he was telling me the story of, I think it was Andrea Perron from the original Conjuring House, and he's very good friends with them, the Perron family, and he told the story of how she came down and went into the kitchen in her house, but once she entered, it wasn't the kitchen she knew. There was an old big fireplace there that hadn't been there for probably decades and decades. It was long covered up and taken down and just made into a wall, but sitting in front of this fireplace in her kitchen that she didn't quite recognize, but recognized that it was a historical version of it, were sitting like 2 or 3 people facing the fire. And one of the people there turned and saw her and hit the other guy, goes, "Hey, will you look at that?" And then boom, it was back to normal. Like, was she the ghost for them as much as they were for her,
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting time dilation there where some overlap, and I'm kind of a fan of the whole idea of non-Euclidean time, which is the essentially the idea that all time from the beginning of the Big Bang until the eventual collapse of the universe is only in this one now, and it's our awareness that moves through it and the changes and the shifts and perceives all of it in a more uniform manner. Just because I'm sure we would go categorically insane in a heartbeat if we got all of it at once. But I think that, perhaps therefore then time is more malleable and maybe it's not a concrete structure. Maybe it's more fluid and dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. You could be right there. I mean, it's a very interesting universe and planet. And I can't help but think that we are so distracted and fixated on the material world, we miss so much. Not only is our perception like you with the night vision goggles seeing the UFO and then normal vision, nope, but it's there and you can go back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably all kinds of things that we are just missing out on because we're so focused on other things. But let me get to this question. Sir Brian Bowden ask, could it be a magnetic anomaly imprinting into a specific space on Earth like the recordings we used to do? And then a follow-up question he asked was, if it is magnetic imprinting, can it be erased and then rewritten based on a more powerful event?
Yeah,
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think it's certainly possible. I think, certainly we all have heard of the term residual hauntings, which is basically a version of the stone tape theory where, things imprint and they replay and they don't seem to be conscious of the observers. They just happen as almost like watching a DVD at home, and you pop it in and the actors keep doing the same thing over and over, absolutely unaware that's no interaction with the actual viewer. And so I certainly believe in that, and I think that that's a real phenomenon. And I certainly think magnetism is certainly a part of this. Magnetism and some probably more esoteric energies than we understand, but I think oftentimes we see the symptom of a lot of these events in magnetic anomalies, as I was alluding to earlier. But absolutely, Brian. For sure. It's anything and everything is possible, and that's truly the scientific method. Like, even though science balks at all of this, and truly the scientific observation, you have to allow for any and every eventuality until it can be systematically and categorically removed, which is not the way science is being used now. It's like, oh, ghosts, whatever. And it's discarded out of hand without any research and without offering possibility to any of the other possibilities. It's the hubris of it that makes it frustrating. But I think honestly, to look at this stuff with sincerity and actual inquiry and testing and trying to reproduce, I think we stand to benefit. And I think it's akin to Tesla saying, when we study the non-physical, we're going to grow more in 10 years than we have in all of combined history. And I think he was alluding to some of this stuff, because Tesla was definitely into the idea of energies and spirit and aliens and all of this stuff. I mean, the guy was brilliant. And so I think he knew something that he wasn't sharing quite yet, but he had an idea of what we could discover.
Well, I mean, all you got to do is look at science, the history of science, and you see, doctors were killing people doing surgeries or giving births, right? They were birthing babies and killing the mothers, and they didn't realize that on their hands were bacteria that nobody knew existed.
Sure.
Everybody just accepts atoms now as just a thing. I mean, Can you see an atom? You can't see an atom.
No.
You know, radio waves, all of these things that we didn't think existed because we weren't able to perceive them or measure them.
No.
You know, I don't look at any of this stuff anymore as something different than that. I mean, it's just we are not there yet.
No.
So, a little bit more on the UFO topic. What are your thoughts about disclosure? Now, there's one person in the chat. I'm not going to shout him out, but he says that we've already had disclosure, and it happened in 1977 with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was the big reveal that happened. I remember being a kid going and seeing that along with Star Wars. So what are your thoughts on, have we already had disclosure and we're just kind of like, meh?
I think we probably had as much disclosure as we can expect, because I think it's as nice as it, and honestly, I don't know that we need disclosure anymore. We don't need, Big Daddy to say, yes, you guys are right, it's out there, because I've experienced it. I don't need anybody to validate my experience. I've seen it, and not everybody has. But with all of the reports, with all of the breadcrumbs that there are out there, I think it's pretty clear to anybody that's willing to take an honest and objective look at the evidences, at the claims, at the measurable things that have been discussed and recovered. I think that, we don't probably need it anymore. There was a time when society really rested on official word on things like, well, we need this, and we've seen it play out over and over again, that the government says something's true, then everybody's supposed to believe it. And if you look at our modern events, not anymore. Like if you had taken COVID and placed that event back in the 50s, there wouldn't have been a soul that wasn't in line to get a vaccination.
Correct.
Because that was the official word. That was the authority. And by God, a good American would line up and do it. And now, there was a lot of people that didn't. And I'm not saying you're on the right or wrong side of that, but I'm just saying, obviously more information was out there that needed to be brought to the table than wasn't disclosed. And this isn't a political discussion or anything. So please, I don't mean to offend anybody, but you have to consider this. I mean, there are those people that need that, and maybe still even, but I think less so now. I think there's enough people that have come forward and released and introduced enough compelling evidence to get people to question. And I think now more than ever, we have the world at our fingertips. We don't need news and information to be filtered through official sources and disseminated to us in breadcrumbs, because you can go on your computer and you can look at sources all over the world to form more informed decisions and information about what it is you're interested in and come to your own conclusions. So I think disclosure was once a really attractive thing. And I think that what we've got so far is about as much as we're probably going to get, because at the end of the day, officially, there's going to be two words that'll always be the grand arbiter of whether something is released or not, and it's called national security. And that's the stamp, the rubber stamp they can stamp on anything to keep it suppressed, to keep it under the wraps. There's no compelling reason that they should have to. And I mean, I'm not saying moral. I think they should. I think it would be only right, because I think people have a right to know what's going on in the world around them. But obviously that opinion isn't shared. I will say though, that the old excuse of, well, we can't tell everybody about that because there'll be pandemonium in the streets. People,
right.
It would undermine religions and the foundation of the world as we know it. And yet, whether the TikTok craft are real or not, depending on which side of that debate you're on, that was released, and it was released as and officially supported that whatever they were seeing, they didn't understand, and we don't understand what it is. And it was hardly a blurb in the news cycles. There was no rioting in the streets because there were tic-tac craft. There was no undermining of religion, and the churches weren't emptied because people didn't believe in God anymore. So those old scapegoats, I think, are tired and dried out and didn't prove to be anything. I think people are ready for the truth. and I think they deserve the truth. I just don't believe we'll probably get it from them. So you're going to have to find it.
Yeah. Well, since you brought this up about the, in the 50s and things, I think we can see this today. I mean, if my hypothesis is anywhere near being true, but I think World War II, with the fighting, the killing, the nuclear weapons that were created and used, that really, I think, destroyed a lot of the psyche of people on this planet, to the point of, like you said, well, we better listen to the government because they're saving us from the Nazis and the crazy totalitarian, guy with the bad mustache across the channel. Right. So, and we still see that carried through today. And like you said, I don't want to get political or anything, but the calling of people Nazis, of labeling people this or communist or this or that, it's the same kind of thing. That why do we, you're an experiencer, me and Michelle are experiencers, other people out there are experiencers with these things. I don't need anybody to show up on my door saying, in a blue suit and sunglasses saying, yeah, these things are real. No, I know that. I mean, I've talked to enough people that I believe, but there's always this, and I think it stems from the psychotic break that we had as a society all around the world of World War II, that we need, some big government official or governments to tell us, hey, yeah, these things are real. Well, we already know they're real. You're not telling us anything we know. And then they use the tactic of, well, religion's going to crumble. And well, religion's already got an answer for it. It's called the plurality of worlds. That it doesn't say that God created just humans. It created humans here on earth, and he did it in 7 days and yada, yada, whatever. But it doesn't say that he didn't create it anywhere else. And for us to sit there and assume that he didn't do, or it didn't do more life somewhere else in the universe, I think is kind of putting a limit on this omnipotent being that already, that exists, that we worship as a all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing God, but he would never create life anywhere else. I think that's kind of right. Yeah. We're going to control that. I don't think so. So yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. And so I don't know if you wanted to jump on anything there with that.
No, I think it's very true. I think that, again, we don't require the intervention of the authorities like we once did, because they really held all the keys. And I think the advent of the internet was probably one of the most liberating acts in our modern era, that we suddenly had access to a world of information. And sometimes it's bad information. I'm not saying believe the internet just because it's the internet. Obviously you gotta use some discernment.
Right.
But I think that, those days of those gatekeepers are old and over, and it's a good thing, because, I think a lot of the unrest and a lot of the unrest, I think, is perpetuated by an elevation of consciousness in a lot of ways. I think that we've outgrown the old shoes that we had to wear. We've outgrown those old pants and stuff, and they don't fit anymore. We've I think in a large way moved beyond that. Now, some people I think just lash out at everything, and they grab onto any cause that lets them release. And sometimes they're not the best expressions of their energy, but
correct.
I think it does show us that people are not content to sit in those boxes anymore. The boxes really served a ruling class for a long time in a lot of ways, but where they could decide what we knew and what we didn't know, and what we could follow and what we couldn't follow, and they could trickle it, like put a little feed dropper in there and give us a few squirts every once in a while, and to keep us content. But we've moved beyond that now. Technology moved beyond that, and in ways that they probably, and I don't mean to vilify anything. I think that, in many cases, it's probably that desire to control is probably in some cases born of, working in the best interest of everybody. And I'm not discounting that, but I think that obviously those kinds of things have been grossly abused, and we've been left in this state of serfdom, perpetual serfdom, until the internet came and gave us the keys to the car, where now I can go over and look at international sources and see what they think of the stories that are going on, or what did my stories here in the States not tell me, that now I can look at other sources and hear more robust explanations and stuff. And you know what I mean? So I think that we're evolving in ways that they didn't predict and they couldn't control. And now the cat's largely out of the bag anyway. So the question is, does anybody think that they need someone to validate what they believe to be true?
Yeah. Well, real quick, I got to thank T-Bone. He gifted 5 memberships to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters, some gift memberships. So Enzo, Jeff Up North, Woo Riders, and KC, and Gemini Moon all received a 1-month membership. Thank you very much, T-Bone. You are the man, as you already know. So thank you very much. And once again, a big thank you to Sir Brian Bowden for his contribution to the podcast. We really appreciate you, our brother from another mother, hanging out down in Florida. So thank you once again. And just so everybody knows, make sure you are hitting that like button, share us out. We have the awesome Brent Thomas from Paranormal Portal on the show with us tonight, talking about all things paranormal, UFO. And don't forget to hit up that lovely little poll that we have going on YouTube. Do you believe Ross Cawthart's claim that the Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin? So very interesting. And no, I'm not giving anybody a maybe. You're not getting an easy way out. It's either yes or no. So, all right. Let's talk about these people that we were just bringing up here. Have you noticed any paranormal trends or anything that's changing? I mean, we talked now about the internet and people's exposure to things and being able to research. Have you noticed anything?
I have 2 words for you. Artificial intelligence.
Ooh.
Oh. I've started a new segment on my live shows called "What the Hell Is That?" And in some of that, I've been trying to expose a lot of the AI trash that's out there, really, really muddying the waters and causing a lot of problems. It really breaks my heart, because I think that there are a lot of people out there that are working really hard to bring information, to bring evidence, and to bring proof to people, to show them that, look, this is a real thing. People are really experiencing this. We're interviewing people that are, putting their hearts on the recording, saying, this is what I went through. And then, the things like the AI just cheapen it a lot. Now, I think AI is a wonderful tool, but I think it's becoming a liability in that it's getting harder and harder to differentiate between what is real and what is an absolute fabrication. And, I'm really concerned about the inclusion of AI into this stuff. It's fine to help illustrate a story. Like, you can use an AI renderer to bring life to the scenes that people are explaining, and to give a more robust experience for the viewers and the watchers and stuff. Wonderful use of it. I use it for thumbnails on my live shows all the time. And it's a great tool, but it's also created a huge liability of people introducing tons of trash and tons of garbage. And I really think one of the things that needs to happen, and maybe it is happening, I hope it happens really, really quickly, though, because I think that there should be an instant indicator on any video, whether or not it was rendered on an AI platform or not. Like some little icon that shows up that you can see it and go, oh, AI.
Like a watermark. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And it's automatically delivered and rendered right along with the video. There's no way to bypass it or cover it up. It's like, oh, well, here's the AI. That makes sense. Okay. Because sadly enough, there's a lot of people out there that really aren't in tune with the technology, and they're believing this stuff. I brought up this video on the what the hell is that segment of it was supposedly this ocean going group that was working to help embattled whales that were covered in barnacles, and they show these whales like floating on the water like a rubber ducky, first of all, and then they got like these car wash buffers buffing them down like they're going through, and it's like, are you freaking kidding me? And then the comments are like, oh, it's so wonderful you guys are out there doing this work, thank you so much. And it's like, there are people that are really putting their lives at risk.
Yes.
Getting into the water with these things, trying to help them, cutting nets off of them and stuff. And then you got Joe's whale car wash, they strap a whale to a ship and then they start buffing it off and they rinse off barnacles like that's soap bubbles. And it's like, oh God. So I've made that kind of a new mission of mine, like to try to expose that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
You could have a week's worth of shows just calling out the videos that are out there.
Like, yeah, absolutely. You could probably do multiple shows a week.
I'm thinking like 2 hours a night for a week.
Yeah. Especially with the UFO stuff, man. It's huge.
Yeah. And the quality's getting better and better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so I hope that they introduce that little watermark thing that you can look for in every video, and it'll pop up, and it's mandated somehow.
Yeah.
I don't like to include a lot of controls into what we're doing, but at the same time, we've got to protect the information and protect the integrity of those people that are actually doing the work and trying to find the answers, and to not have them, getting stomped out by somebody's AI build showing, Bigfoot, making bacon in their kitchen or something. It's like, my God. You know? And no doubt there'll be people that'll believe Bigfoot was in that kitchen making bacon.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I remember, well, first of all, Multifaceted Jules, a member for 6 months. Thank you. We really appreciate you. That is awesome. This reminds me of I know who did it, but I'm not going to mention it. A certain person or a couple of people that took the New Jersey drone footage and then overlaid it with a guy shooting a gun at one of the drones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you ever, during the New Jersey
I don't think I saw
drone
that.
flap, you didn't see that one? Oh my God. It's a guy, Yahoo! And he's shooting a gun.
No,
and
I missed that
it's two images overlaid
in a neighborhood.
And they're like, oh my God, people are going to get ideas to start shooting at these things. You don't know what's in them. Don't shoot at them and stuff. And nobody did. But, still.
You got somebody in comments, what sort of bullets did you use?
Right. Well, and the funny thing is it was tracers, and being in the military, tracer rounds are just, they're glowing rounds to show you where a probability where your real bullets will land, like every third round is a tracer. So, but yeah, so it was just all tracers. You're like, yoo-hoo, just, oh my God. Well, I wanted to ask you before we start wrapping it up here, because we're almost at an hour and a half already. Wow. This has been a great conversation. What was one of the cases or an encounter that, besides yours, that shook you personally or made you reevaluate your beliefs?
Okay, well, there was one there. Every encounter that somebody shared with me has been incredible, and I think it's an incredible honor that people put that trust in you, because they're bearing their soul, they're opening their hearts, and they're saying, "Look, this is the hell I've been trying to deal with," and they want help. They want to, and at least they want to put it out there and share it with somebody, because a lot of these people have been carrying it for bricks, like, for years.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many interviews I've done where it's like, wow, it feels so good to finally talk about that. I've been carrying it for decades, and it feels like I'm just feel lighter and happy now. And it's an honor that they trusted me and my platform to do that with. But the one thing that I was always interested in, both on the live shows and the podcast, because both of those are very different shows for me. The podcasts are much more interview based, but the live shows are much more variety based. Like I cover a lot of different topics on my live shows. But the one thing that I was always researching and always trying to find was, and I just shared this on Spaced Out Radio recently, but it was real accounts of vampires. That has always been a fascinating topic for me, because I believe every legend is born of some truth. There's some truth that started the legend and brought this out. And that, the whole Nosferatu and the vampirism is as old as time. So what is it? What did people experience, and what does this mean? But every time I looked into it, all I could find were, the goth counterculture, where people wear black and they, glue in fake fangs, and they actually drink blood and stuff. Or I could find ancient historical references of, like a village in Romania. Sorry, Romania. What the hell did I just say? Romania, where, they had this corpse they thought was being reanimated and running around and making people sick, and they dig up the corpse that looked fresh and beheaded or put cages over the grave or whatever. But I couldn't find any real world, more modern examples of it. I'd heard some through the years, and that's why I was like, I really believe there's something out there. And then finally I got an email from a guy, and his name is Philip. He went by Paul when I interviewed him because he wasn't sure he wanted to be out there, but he's since become more open about it. But
okay,
he said, I'm not going to tell you what I experienced. I'm not going to try to define this. I'm just going to tell you what I experienced, and what do you think it was? And he explained his experience, and I was like, oh my God. I said, dude, this is going to sound really weird, really bizarre, and I'm sorry, but I think you saw a vampire. He's like, yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too. And I think it's season 3, episode 46 of my podcast where I interviewed him, and he talks about this incredible experience being a 4-year-old child, living with his mom, at least his mom and dad. Maybe his dad was off at work and his mom was kind of stay at home, but he would always, they lived in a single wide trailer in this lot that had like an 80-yard kind of field, grassy field, and then a wood line, and then there was a fenced playground off on the other side. But he always would sit, as a 4-year-old child, would sit on the sink area of the counter, looking out the window and talking with his mom. That was kind of their thing. He'd sit up there and they'd play, and she'd do her stuff, and he'd just kind of look out the window. I was going to say gaze out the window, but it came out glaze. I don't know why. But anyway, that's my palate. Yeah. But he's sitting in that window as a 4-year-old child, and suddenly he sees a figure over across the 80-yard field right at the wood line. He said it was so weird because I'd never seen anybody ever over there. I'd see people over on the playground area, the fenced in area, but never anybody over there. He said, so I looked at it, and he said, I turned and said something like, hey mom, you should look at this. And he said, when I turned back, it was at the window. So in that amount of time, it had moved from 80 yards away right up to the window. And he said, it was the weirdest experience. He said it looked like a black guy, an old black guy that was kind of pudgy, but he said his skin was like purple. It was like rotting or like almost decayed. But he said, and his lips were absolutely blue, but he was looking at him and his eyes glowed slightly red, like a real light red glow. But he said he was on the other side of the window, and it was like he was trembling, like he was looking at me, absolutely starved. And he said, I was oddly feeling calm. So he saw this thing suddenly appear. And even though this is a sight that should terrify a 4-year-old boy, he said, I felt kind of calm. And
he was like getting mesmerized or something.
And then he said, I didn't even know it, but I realized my arm was reaching to open up the window. And he said, and that's when I turned and said, Mom, come here, there's something outside. And then he looked back again. And by the time he looked back, he said it was moving and it had already jumped the fence, which is about another 80 yards away. And he said it moved so fast. It was like it had light streamers behind it. It was going so quickly, and it leaped over that fence. And that was the last he saw it until he became an adult. And he saw another one. And he said, I think I might be tagged. Like they might be able to find me because of that experience as a 4-year-old child. So it was an incredible interview. Wow. I was just blown away by that, but that's the only one I've ever heard in all the years I've done this.
Wow. Yeah, that is, see, now I wonder if that's some kind of relationship to like the black-eyed kids.
I wondered that too. And the Hollywood version of vampires definitely must have taken some kind of inspiration from Black Eyed Kids. I think Black Eyed Kids is a very old phenomena, although the Brian Bethel named them Black Eyed Kids, I think in 1996 in Texas. He's the one that coined the term. But I think whatever this is, it's a very old phenomenon, maybe interrelated. Yeah, could be some of the same stuff.
Well, I got 2 more questions for you. They're kind of fun questions.
Okay.
And then we're going to wrap this up for tonight. So if you had unlimited resources to investigate one phenomenon or theory, what would it be and why?
I think probably I love Bigfoot and cryptozoology, but I think that's a younger man's game than my body's capable of doing. Even with resources.
Same.
So I think I would look into more hauntings and do more investigatings. And I love investigating, for ghosts and hauntings and stuff. I've really enjoyed doing that. I do it every chance I can, which isn't as often as I'd like, but I love doing it. And I'd love to go to a lot of the hotspots, not only around the country, but around the world. I'd love to go investigate old castles in England and across Europe and stuff. I think that'd be amazing. So that would be my vote, because I think I can keep up with that, but running through mountains and uneven terrain.
Yeah.
not
so much anymore. Yeah.
I like how Nane says, how old is old? When your body laughs at you when you go to move.
55 and had 2 major surgeries at this point, one on my shoulder and one to replace a hip. I think that's probably about it for me.
Yeah. I'm 56 and have had my knee rebuilt several times. So it's like running through the woods. I love the woods, and I go out with my wife looking for mushrooms and fishing and stuff as much as I can, but it's usually on pretty even ground.
As a gentle stroll.
It's
not as a run.
It's more of a leisurely walk through the woodlands, not hiking up hillsides and boulders and stuff.
Yeah. And then the last fun question we got for you. I know you said you grew up and lived most of your life in Minnesota, but how about any connection to the paranormal mitten that we call Michigan?
Yeah, actually, I lived in Michigan for about a year. When I was 18, I went to massage therapy school over there and studied and lived in a town called Lapeer near Flint.
Oh, yeah.
That's where our oldest lives.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Our oldest daughter. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My cousins lived out there and I stayed with them while I went to school when I was 18. And I love Michigan. I really do. I had a lot of fond memories from Michigan.
Yeah. All right. Well, Brent, it's been awesome, everybody. It's Brent Thomas from Paranormal Portal. Make sure you go through the description, find the link to his show on YouTube. He's also over on Rumble, right?
Yeah, I'm on Rumble. I'm on X, Facebook, and you can find my podcast on all the platforms. So
awesome. All right. And let's see. What else? I think that's everything. I don't know. This was such a good conversation. I almost hate to end it, but we're going to be hitting 2 hours here real close. So
I was going to say, I got to go back and watch and listen, since I did some mad driving skills to get
I bet
3 towns over to pick up my kid at 9 and it was like, whoo, I got to get back to the house.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate being here, and I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'll definitely do this again.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely get you back on. So Brent, thank you very much for joining us, and have a great night. We'll be in contact soon.
All
right. Where is Michelle at?
Right here. Hey, I like that. Intergalactic's telling me drive safe, kids in the car. It's called My 18-year-old is saving up for a car.
Yeah.
So right now, Mom has a invisible taxi shirt.
Yeah. Well,
now
soon enough she'll have her own car.
You guys didn't talk about those little doll things, did you? Did you bring up?
No, we'll get them back on and have another talk.
I want to talk to somebody in paranormal about those little Labubu dolls.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about the poll real quick before I forget. So we asked, do you believe Ross Cawthart's claim that the Tic Tac UFO is...
Did Paramarv get the hell no up there?
Yeah. Is Lockheed Martin. 72% of you said no, where 28% of you said yes. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility that they are backwards engineering some of this stuff, but my gut for any of this stuff is that it is not. And until you have your own experience with these things, you're going to probably, if you think here's how, flip a coin. Yes, it's human. No, it's not. It's man-made. It's not. So right now, until you get that experience, that's the only thing I can really say. Until you have that experience where you're face to face with one of these things, and it'll change you. Trust me, it'll change you. So let's see. Don't forget the live presentation on July 25th at 5:30, going to 8 p.m. at the Bacon Memorial Library in Wyandotte, Michigan. Ray Szymanski's going to be there.
Yeah, we got our spots reserved, so we're going to be there as well.
Reserve your spots immediately so you guys have room. They do have limited room. Let's see. So, and again, no show next Sunday, right, Michelle?
Yes, but sometime during the week, we're finagling something.
Yeah, we're putting something together, and we want it to be good. So, and let's see, just real quick. Once again, I want to thank all the super chatters and everything. So, Sir Brian Bowden, hitting us with a $20 super chat. Thank you very much.
1999. Wasn't that a Prince song?
Yeah. 1999.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Also, we had T-Bone once again coming in with the gifted 5 subs
and rocking our shirt.
Yep, always rocking the Michigan UFO shirt. Thank you very much. Multi-Face Jules for being a member for 6 months, and last but not least, Diane Boss renewed her membership for 22 months. You always have awesome people on the show. Well, thank you.
I think my next tattoo is going to be of Driver. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I'm like itching to get a tattoo again. It's been a few years.
Yep. Yeah. I have no tattoos. So maybe I will get one.
I think I'm going to get Driver in the little spaceship.
Yeah. That'd be cool. So anyways, with that being said, everybody, man, you guys have been awesome. Oh, wait a minute.
Hey,
Nathan.
With our angel numbers.
333 super chat. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan.
Nathan the Lurker. He's lurking in the quantum.
I call him Nathan the Lurker because he always says he's lurking at work.
Yep. He's always working. All right, everybody. This has been a great show. Once again, Brent Thomas over at the Paranormal Portal. You can find a link to his show on YouTube down in the show description. But he's over on Rumble, X, all of that. You just have to search. You'll find him. Great guy. And we'll definitely be having him back on very, very soon. And yes, there's the link from T-Bone in the chat. I don't know, Michelle, with that being said, what do you think? Michelle, are you there?
I think it's that time. I think it's that time of night. Yes, I am here.
Did she fade out?
You don't want to know how this guy gets my attention when I start to tune out. I was looking over at chat, but earlier I didn't answer him quick enough on something, and he literally took a drink of water and pretended that he was a sprinkler as he sprayed water at me. I am not kidding you.
I did. There's look, what Michelle is leaving out of that discussion is that there's many of times, you know how guys get blamed for selective hearing and all that? Well, this little blonde girl over here has the ultimate select hearing. And there are many, many times where I ask her a question and she will not respond. So today I was feeling a little frisky, had a bottle of water sitting with me, said, hello. She's not responding. She's literally 3 feet from me. So I took a drink of water and just did a little squirt right out of the mouth. She's like, are you spitting water at me? And her response was, what?
I don't remember. I think I threatened him that he's going to sleep on the couch tonight. So everybody have a good night.
Have a great night,
week.
Everybody. A great week, a great night. We'll see you guys next week sometime. Keep an eye on our post for information about the next show. And remember, keep your eyes to that
Sky. Yep, the sky.
the
And
sky.
that button is down there somewhere that you have to press.
Man, let me get my water bottle. Hold on.